Oh my God.
Now we're hanging by a thread and it's ringing in my head.
No more rhymes now, I mean it.
Anybody want a peanut?
Yeah!
Oh, yeah, for sure. Like, eat. Food is important. How is everybody? So, welcome in. And we are going to go back to our peanut butter jelly and ducks. Um, going to do a real quick recap of what we did last stream that we did this one on. And I did do some off stream things. Went ahead and set up a GitHub repo. That way, if anybody wants to follow along, right now it's pretty basic things, but as we get further along, this will actually start to become an application. You'll be able to clone the repo, code along with whatever you're in the mood to do. But yeah, so let's talk about the repo. Peanut butter, jelly, and ducks. This is the README for the repo. The repo is here. So what is this? During the Programming 101 stream, we decided to take the peanut butter and jelly exercise a step further. Instead of just pseudocode, we're actually going to build the app. Hi, Oleg. Welcome in. So yeah, we're gonna build an app. We're gonna build it out in Python. I had to make some decisions on that. We're going to build the basics out in Python. After we get through that, to show you why it was so important to stick to language agnostic things in the beginning, I'm going to actually transfer the program into C#, and we're going to use probably Unreal, and we'll actually build this into a little game so we can watch the little ducks build peanut butter and jelly sandwiches. Ducks on PB&J, no, we're not going to actually harm any ducks, obviously, but there has to be ducks. Nixie did command it. So how are we going to use this repo? So for people who have not used any kind of Git source control, a repo is a repository of code. There are branches. The branches give different stages of where the code is at, depending on how you're using it. I like to use branches as, in a real project, I would use branches as this is my development stages. The main branch would be the most current release. If I'm working on a patch, that would be its own little branch of version 1.1.1, whatever version we're in. The way we're going to do it with this is each stream will have its own branch. If you want to see where we were at last stream, you will be able to clone this repo, pull up the branch for 3/8/2023, and that'll show you just the things that we had in that stream. Today's branch will be 3/15. We are also creating releases. So the way the releases work, just like what you see when you're playing a game, we actually have a full release. When you come in, there will be patch notes. The patch notes on this is going to be very simple. The only thing that changed from the original main to what we have now is what I did in the stream cleanup. So the way that looks, I created a directory that has our first function pseudocode. Kind of gives the basic idea of how a design document would work. Let's define and name the function. Let's figure out what the functional requirements are. What kind of parameters are we going to put in? A little bit of pseudocode. And we'll continue doing that. I also have a markdown file that is the original instructions that the chat created. Get out bread, get out peanut butter, get out jelly. Within the heart of the actual code, or the actual repository, will be the code. If you don't have an IDE, you can actually just click on this, and you can actually start looking at the code that we've written so far. So continuing the recap, we talked about strings. We defined our first string. We talked about integers. We defined our first integer. We talked about booleans, and we defined our first boolean. We stepped into our first function, which was just to describe bread. As we go forward, we'll actually start making this more of a how functions are going to affect the actual operation of the application, because we don't necessarily need our application to describe bread to us. But that was a quick way to show how a function works. There was a little bit of code added. You'll notice that I put a function here if name equals main. What this does in Python, if we were to import something, which we will probably talk about not this stream, but the next one, if we were to import a library or a module, if we were to import this as a module, this prevents our code from running on import. If we didn't have this, every time somebody tried to import this module, these 3 print statements would run. And we don't want that. One, it's a bit of a security issue. 2, it's just bad code practice. If we're writing an application, we want it to run when we want it to run, not when somebody is trying to import it. But yeah, so this is GitHub. This is the version control that I chose to use, mainly because anybody can create a free account. Now, my particular account is not a free account. I do enough development that I need some of the extras that come along with a paid account. But again, anybody in this stream can go and create a free account. So now we're back in our IDE. And the first thing I want to ask is, can everybody actually read the text on this? Because I had to change it back because I do code for work, and this font is obscenely large to actually work in when you're doing things for work. So before I go too far, I just want to make sure that this is actually legible on the stream. So if anybody could just kind of say, yeah, we can see it. No, could you make it bigger? It's too big. I'm going to assume it's good for now. If anybody comes in and notices that it's too small, too big, just let me know. I do watch the chat pretty consistently, so I will try to get it fixed. So again, we talked about strings, we talked about integers, we talked about booleans. I want to continue defining some data types. So probably the next one that we would want to step into is something a little more complicated. In Python, it is called a list. Other languages may use the word array. It's good? Cool. Thanks, Floyd. So what an array or a list is a collection of things. These things can be the other data types that we've talked about, whether that be a string, an integer, a Boolean, or some that we haven't talked about. You can have a list of lists. In some of the lower level languages and in some of the strictly typed languages, when you define a list or array, you will actually have to tell the language what is going to be in there. In Python, because we're duck typed, we do not have to do that. All it cares about is this is supposed to be a list and you're going to put data in it. So what this looks like in Python, this will be a Python centric stream, not quite as agnostic as the last one. So first we'll do our comment. We'll define a list. Excuse me. We will call this my list for right now. And this is what a empty list looks like in Python. Empty lists are great. They're boring. Welcome in. How are you doing, John? But yeah, so all this is going to be the reason I like the way Python calls this a list is it is a list of things. So if I wanted to say our list was white bread, we could add variables, pieces of bread, and crust. So now we have a list of 3 different data types. I'm good, John. How are you? It is John, right? I am saying that right. Please tell me I'm saying that right. They they're fun at this age, so I know it sounds crazy, but I promise you, you will miss this phase. Um, and then as they go through each phase, you'll miss the last one. One thing that is guaranteed, you will miss the kids growing up. And yeah, I had a great day. It was a very successful day. Excited to be on here, giving some Python things. Um, but yeah, it's hard because a lot of people think that we as parents get upset that the child's not sleeping because we're missing out on sleep, and it's not that. It's well, I mean that's part of it. Let's be honest, but a lot of it is we just know that they are they're tired, um, and we just want them to know that like if they would just sleep, they'd feel so much better. Um, so yeah, it's hard, um, and it unfortunately it stays that. Yeah, yeah, it is. I when my little ones were babies, the thing I hated the most was to hear them cry. The thing I loved the most was to hear them giggle, though. So I promise the sounds get better when you hear it's your son. You have a son, right? Yep, yep. Okay, the giggles. Yes, the giggles are amazing. Jonah, what a beautiful name. That is so awesome. Um, yeah, the giggles are so much fun, and they just get better as they get older. The giggles get even better. Uh, so enjoy it. I promise. It gets better, and you'll get some sleep soon. So yeah, so a list. Um, it is a collection of items, variables, data, whatever you want to call it. I'm trying to stay away from super technical terms, but so the next logical question when we're talking about we have this thing now, we have a list. We know why we need a string. It gives us the ability to make the computer do things with words. We know why we have an integer. Come in, Courtney. Yeah, yeah. The the first few weeks are hard, but at least it just gets better. uh, so yeah, we have this list of data, and the next question is why? Why would we ever need a list of data? Couldn't we just use? Oh no! Never be sorry for disrupting the flow. I love talking with everybody. These streams will get where we're going. Um, I'd rather us all chat and enjoy each other's company than worry about a flow of this program. This program will get done. Um, so never be sorry for that. So why do we need a list of things? There's some cool things that we can do with a list. The first thing that I like to show people is the ability to iterate. Um, so let's say I had, right now we have a list of three things. So we could do print white bread, print pieces of bread. We could do three print statements. We've done it. Down here we've got three print statements. But what if I had a collection of 1,000 items? Do I really want to write 1,000 print statements? And the answer is no, because as developers, we're telling these computers to do these things because we don't want to do them ourselves. Um, computers are good at certain things. I have house guests today. Everybody, this is my ex-wife. Um, And my headphones turned off because we have no sound. But yeah, computers are good at certain things. They're good at math. They're good at managing data for us. And this is an instance of it managing data. So instead of printing white bread, pieces of bread, and crust, I can just do this. Or data in my list, print data. We're going to comment out some other things that we have going on so that those don't run.
So happened to leave my vape right here.
Hey.
Hi chat, bye chat.
This guy says, hi, chat, bye, chat. But yeah, so from here we can run this. We can run main.py, and I'm going to pull this up a little bit so you can actually see what it did. And it just went through the data and it said, okay, I'm going to print all three things. So why did that happen? We told it to. We said, for each thing that is in this list, I want you to do something. This is what we call a loop. This is specifically, this is a for loop. Again, for 3 items, it would have been probably just as easy to write 3 print statements, but here's where it gets powerful. So now, down the road, I also realized that I need to know what kind of jelly. So we're going to use John, have a great night. Try to get some sleep. And again, enjoy Jonah. So we're going to use strawberry jelly because that seems like a good idea right now, right? So when we printed those 3 items, if we had done 3 separate print statements, we would now have to come back and do a 4th print statement. If we run it now, it's going to print all 4 of those items. This is that concept of dry programming that we were talking about. If we can make it where we only have to affect one thing in one place and that affects everywhere that that thing is used, we are less likely to make mistakes. If we wanted to say we need a drink to go with our peanut butter and jelly, coffee and peanut butter and jelly, no, that doesn't sound good. We'll just do water. So now we can add water to our list. We can run it, and it'll print all of the things in our list. There's a lot more we can do. We'll get to inputs. That is something I want to get to today. So we will definitely talk about inputs. In fact, we might do that right now. So we are going to do that right now. We're actually going to step out of data types for a minute. We're going to step into this. We're going to input is there anything you want to add to the list? We're going to assign this to a variable addition. And we are going to move our for loop. Here. So what's going to happen now is we're going to actually start in with some end user interactions. We're going to ask a question. They're going to give us an answer, and we're going to do this twice. If addition equal, actually, we're going to try to cover some things. We're just going to check the first letter. We're going to assume that somebody, and we'll talk about what I'm doing here. to y. We talked about if statements last time. Take another input. Else, we're just going to pass. And we're going to use a method. We'll talk about what a method is in a second for our data type of list. So we're going to do my list append. What do that? All right, so we have stepped out of just using data types now. Now we are using some extra concepts. So we're going to pause on the actual coding and we're going to talk about what we're doing here. So this we've all seen. Here we're defining the list. We are defining a variable that is a of type list. We're going to assign a variable to an input, which is going to ask our user a question. Our user is going to answer yes or no. If they answer yes, and the way that we're checking this, we're going to use what's called a method, which is like a function, but done on specific data types. We'll talk about what type of data this is used on in a minute, because that's going to get into object-oriented programming, and that's a very complicated topic. We are literally going to check the lowercase letter character of addition at index 0. So the reason that we check at index 0, computers do not count like we do. We normally start counting at 1. We say 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. A computer starts at 0. It says 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. So when we want to check the first letter of anything or the first item of anything, we are going to start at index 0. So we are going to check to see if index 0 is y, because in Python, a string can be broken down like a list. We are going to say if that is y, which means our user does want to add something to the list. Let's ask them, what do they want to add? We're going to take that input, and we're going to use another method, which is .append. And we're going to tell it to add whatever they type here. So what the append does is add an item to the end of our list, or any list. Again, because a string can be used as a list, we can use the append on strings. We're not going to do all that because that's just bad programming practice, but we could. I see it, Danny. Hi, Danny. So after we check to see if that is a y, we are going to say, if that is not a y, we're just going to pass. We're not going to do anything. Glad you like it, Danny. I don't have sound again. Well, I do. I just have to turn my headset back on. So I don't even get to hear it. But of course, I put it in there so I know what it is. So what this keyword pass does is say, I don't want you to do anything. Just move on. Think of it like a continue, but we have to be careful because continue is a different keyword that does something a little bit different. After we do all of that and we ask, and we are actually going to start moving all of this down into our main function, because that is a better way to do this. After we pass, it's going to say, all right, so now I want to print all the items in my list. So what this actually looks like, we'll go ahead and move this up. And we're going to click run. And we'll notice it asks this question. Now there's some things that are going to happen here. You'll notice one, when I start typing, this is going to be right against this question mark. We'll fix that in a few minutes. But we're going to type yes. And you'll notice I used a capital Y. The reason I did that is so that you can see that that dot lower is going to take my uppercase Y, change it to a lowercase y for the comparison. What would I like to add? We'll add crackers. So, real quick before we hit enter on this, when we started, our list was white bread, 2. Our crust was true. We added some strawberry jelly, and it has water in it. So without this append function, this is what would print. Because we are going to append to the list, once I hit enter, you'll notice it added that to the list for me. Now, this stays in the operational memory. This is not stored anywhere. In order to store this summer, we would have to write it to something that is permanent storage. This is in RAM. Technically, it's in the stack, but we're not going to get into that. And the way that we can check and show that that's true, once we run, I'm going to type no this time, and you'll notice crackers isn't there. This is not my grocery decider thing. So what this is, last stream we decided we were going to take the peanut butter and jelly sandwich exercise that they do a lot. So give the instructions on how to build a peanut butter and jelly sandwich, and we're going to turn it into an actual application. Now, for my grocery decider thingy, this is all of these concepts were used in it. They were used in a much different way. So they had API calls, which we'll talk about probably later on. In fact, me and Roadside are actually going to be working on a project together that you guys will get to see in both streams. So, little tease for that. Hey, 6 months. What? Thank you. I don't even know how to react to that. Thank you so much. But yeah. So again, little teaser for you if you watch both me and Roadside, you will actually get to see this project being built and then used. Grocery deciding thingy. Yes, that's what. Oh my god, Bibbidi. I don't even have an alert for that. Thank you. Wow. Now I see why you guys freak out. So, okay, I'm going to explain the grocery decider thingy. I don't like to go shopping. I do all of my shopping from the computer. You're welcome. And now I purpled. Yes, you did. You purpled me. 1 second. I don't like to go grocery shopping. And I don't like deciding what I'm going to have for dinner. So towards the beginning of the stream, I mentioned the reason that we use programming is to make a computer do something for us that we don't want to do. I wrote. Oh, thank you for the lark. I can't talk today. Nightly, and I really appreciate it. Thank you so much. But yeah, I decided that I didn't want to grocery shop anymore. I didn't want to decide what I was going to do for dinner. So I wrote a Danny. Thank you. Guys, stop. That's not true. I can see it, and now I know. Yeah, so thank you, Danny. You didn't have to do that. I decided I didn't want to grocery shop. I decided I was not going to pick my recipes anymore. So I wrote a program, and that program took about people to set down. Ay. So this is what I do to you guys, huh? um, yeah, the program
Now we're hanging by
picked
a
5
thread and it's
random.
ringing in my head.
Good night, John. Get some sleep while you can before Jonah decides that it's time for you to wake back up. Yeah, it picked 5 random recipes, and then it ran API calls to Walmart's APIs before they put them behind a paywall. Not a paywall, that's not a fair statement. They put them behind a wall of you have to be a vendor to use these. And it would fill up my cart with all the items that I needed for those recipes. And literally, I just would log into walmart.com and click buy, and my groceries would get delivered to me. It does not work anymore because, unfortunately, Walmart decided only vendors should use their APIs. But that's okay. We can fix that. There's always a way to hack around it. And I am not saying I'm hacking Walmart. That would be illegal. I am saying hack in the programmer sense, which is find a different way to do something. Got to put that disclaimer out there because if somebody hacks Walmart tomorrow, I don't want people thinking it was me. But yeah, that is the grocery decider thingy. Programmers, really the only reason we do any of this is because we want a way to be lazier about things. That is the official name for it. You have named it. It is that. Is, if I ever rebuild it, which I will, I shouldn't say if I ever. I'm going to rebuild it. I will actually name the repo Grocery Decider Thingy. That will be the official repo name. Yeah, we talked about lists. There's another data type. Grocery Decider Thingy. I love it. I think it's great. If anybody has ever seen, we'll go into some of my code. Like, I mean, it wouldn't be out of place. This is named PBJ, PBJ and Ducks. Ryan can talk. It is possible. You should see some of the commit. Actually, here's a good example of a commit message. I don't know what I was doing, but I was apparently upset with the commit. Normally, they look a little bit closer to this, which is just kind of telling you what I. Danny, thank you. But yeah, because it's my repos, I'm the only person reading it. If I get mad at the commit, I can do whatever I want. Not to say that I don't do the same thing at work, because I do occasionally. Yeah, there's some pretty bad repos. There's always emojis in my repos as well. So yeah, naming it Grocery Decider Thingy wouldn't be out of place for my repositories at all. So last stream, Roadside mentioned possibly adding our PBJ. Thank you. Favorite name ever. I personally love it a lot. I think it's great. I think it describes exactly what that program did to level 4. Oh my. Yeah. You. Yeah. If you can't see it, I promise it's happening. But yeah, Roadside mentioned adding all the. I love you too, baby. I really do. The beard is blushing. The beard is blushing. Um, to do an inventory type system in Python, we would either use something like a list or a dictionary. I actually would prefer to use a dictionary, which is the next data type we're going to talk about, because it uses a concept of key value pairs. We'll show what that looks like. That's all commented. Well, you're just not going to work, are you? Um, uh, we're going to uncombat this so that we can actually start using some of what we did last week too. Go here. And one of the things we're trying to do is make sure we're commenting our code, because I can look at this code, it's less than 100 lines in about 3 seconds and tell you exactly what it does. I've been doing this a little bit longer. This is not designed for people like me. This is designed for people who are learning. So we want to make sure we're explaining what's happening. Input. Yes, document. Now, I will say, while I just said that, if you ever see my code without documentation, there is something wrong. But that is because I think the largest piece of code that I've written personally just by myself has in the range of about 11,000 lines of code. And while I can read, 32 lines of code in a couple of seconds, I cannot read 1,000 lines of code and even remember half of what it was doing. So if it is not something that is obvious, it is getting documented. And I wish more programmers would do that, because as a security assessor, when I come back behind your code, knowing what you're trying to do helps me give you remediations. When I find something like, hey, you're taking a user input in a way that you shouldn't, it's going to directly be run on the back end of a computer, and that's problematic. Without knowing what it's supposed to do, it just makes my job take longer. It's not harder. No matter what, it's the same level of effort. It's just going to take longer. So when people document their code, that is an instant. I am happy with you. So here we're going to ask user to add new list. The thing about Python, you can comment at the end of any line that you want or at the beginning. Just if you comment at the beginning, whatever comes after that comment is also commented. And there are better ways that we could do what I've done here, but this is the simplest. And here we are going to list. Hey, I would love to have somebody that could translate my jibber jabber because there's no other way to describe when I start talking about programming with other people and I'm not trying to teach somebody. Even sometimes when I am trying to teach somebody, um, it's a skill, Bivity. Being able to translate geek is such a skill, and it's not a common one at all. But yeah, I wish I had a translator. I've got a coworker who, fortunately, is as technical as I am, but also really good at the translation part. Um, I bet he was. Um, like I said, it's rare. Uh, if I did not have my coworker, my poor minion, as we call him, uh, not the coworker, the actual minion, would never understand anything I say. Uh, she, my coworker, does an amazing job. Uh, where you get to see my ADD kick in. Oh, you're like really, really good at documenting. That is awesome. Tribal knowledge, tribal knowledge is my least favorite thing in especially IT companies because it runs such at such a rampant rate that it just makes impossible. It makes it impossible. Again, I work in security, um, so one of the things that I get very concerned about is if you know, if Jim leaves this company, how bad is that going to affect the things that I'm trying to secure? And if Jim is the only person that knows how XYZ works, and all they've done is a quick document that doesn't really explain anything, um, before we can cut Jim's access, we have to figure out how it works. So if somebody has to come in and reverse engineer it, so you know what I'm talking about, Void. Offboarding is such a nightmare because of tribal knowledge. When Jim can't be removed from access because we're trying to figure out what. Uh, so I specifically work in, I suppose you would say cybersec. I work on the red team. Um, I I am an ethical hacker. That is what I do. Um, I worked on blue team, so there was a lot of infosec in that. But I'll be honest, I don't miss blue team. There's a watching a blue team work, and so you're going to love this statement because I know you haven't heard this from red teamers very much. Watching a blue team work is one of the most magical things you can ever do. Watching a true incident response. So you're really going to like this one. Watching incident response happen, especially from the red team side, is magic. It is absolutely beautiful to watch how quickly an incident response team can go from an alert to doing forensics to catching me doing what I'm doing. That being said, I didn't enjoy it. I was pretty decent at it. I wasn't great, but I was pretty decent at it. I I think like an attacker, so I'm I'm much better at looking at something and saying this is how I would break into it. It's just what I'm better at. Um, but yeah, I have so much respect for D4 teams and blue teams in general, but especially anybody who deals with the forensics and incident response side. Um, SOC analysts, of course, we have our SOC analysts who are new to the field. That's where a lot of people start. That's where I started. And even just watching them learn is something awesome because you watch them slowly grow from every little alert that comes in that hasn't been tuned being an emergency to them actually figuring out how to analyze the data they're seeing and move into, oh, wait, this actually might be a thing. And being able to respond and say, oh crap, we need to get a forensics expert in here. We need to get our incident response team moving. Watching that transformation happen. I have a meme somewhere. I wish I could find it. It's a tier 1 SOC analyst looking at a butterfly saying, "Is this C2 communications?" And it's true. Like when you first come out of college or school, or your first SOC job, that's kind of how it feels. Like everything is just, oh no, this is a malicious hacker. And then as you learn to analyze that data, it gets really interesting to watch. Um, but yeah, that was my cybersec rant for the day. We are going to talk about dictionaries. Actually, that's not all of my cyber. A lot of people get this idea that red team is, I hate to use this word, but it's what you hear all the time. Like, red team is sexy. Like, we break into stuff. We do all this craziness. It's not. 90% of what I do is trick end users. Um, as far as the hacking side, I get somebody to click a link that they shouldn't have. It's very rare that I pull up a application and I'm like, oh crap, like here's a 0-day. If that was a common thing, we'd have a serious problem. And probably 60% of my time is spent Googling how an application's supposed to work. So I wish colleges did a better job of explaining how amazing Blue Team really was, because everybody just wants to be a pen tester. And it's like, dude, no, you don't. Like, I spend a lot of time writing reports. It's not fun. When I actually get to do the hacking is when it's fun. That's fair, Vivity. It hurts my brain, and I'm in it, and I've been in it for a while. It probably hurts my brain in a different way because I watch people do the same. In our field, there's something called the OWASP Top 10, and the OWASP Top 10 gets reevaluated every year, and it's always the same vulnerabilities that are on this list. Why in the world, with all of the advancements we've had, we still have problems like we do with SQL injection, with broken authentication? I could go on forever about that, and I'm not going to, because I'm just going to sound like I'm on a soapbox. But sports. I remember me and you talking about a incident recently with your work where it broke my little hacker heart. It broke my hacker heart, but it also made me happy. I love when people do stuff like that, because that means I can watch more Twitch during the workday. I've already broken into your system immediately. But it also breaks my heart because I didn't get into hacking to be a bad person. I got into hacking because I know we can do better. So when I see people not doing better, I'm just like, why? Why are you doing this? Fair point. Fair point. I'm glad you convinced them of that, and I'm glad they put a password in front of it in general. Keep typing, make sure I'm interacting, but I also want to make sure I get this out here. All right, so a dictionary is what we call a key value pair. Now, Here I have written it as just key and value. Obviously, that's not something we would do. But this shows the idea, or this shows how it's written in Python. So how would this actually work? Let's say we were doing, let's do a sandwich dictionary. I spelled today? Nope. I can never spell that word. Of all the things not to be able to spell. I don't know. We're just gonna assume that I don't know how to spell. Let's make a my PB&J dictionary. So every PB&J is going to have bread. So we're going to make a key of bread. Every PB&J is going to have peanut butter. We're going to assume. And we'll use this to start assigning some brands. We're going to use jelly. Because it's not a PB and J without jam jelly, whatever you want to call it. Crust. And let's do a drink. The way this works, you'll notice this looks a lot like what we've done down here. The reason that we would use something like a dictionary is we are creating a standard data. We know that a PB&J is going to have bread. It's going to have peanut butter. It's going to have jelly. We want to know if it is going to have crust on or off. And I personally don't like to eat food without having some kind of drink. So we're going to assume that everybody else wants to drink with their food too. So for bread, we could do white bread here. Anybody, what's a good brand of peanut butter? Or we could even do, let's just do crunchy versus smooth. For jelly, we'll do strawberry because we already went with strawberry. Crust, we're going to assign this. Hi, Tiny, how are you doing? Welcome in. And we're going to stick with water because we all need to drink water, right? So the reason that we have this data type, one, it gives us a structured form of data. So anytime I deal with a PB&J, I can reference this key, I can reference this key, I can reference this key, and I can change these. We'll talk more about how that looks when we get into object-oriented, because then we can start using instances of things. But for right now, if I wanted to say print IPBJ, and we're going to reference the bread. This is case sensitive, so we do actually have to come up and make sure that we're not doing something silly, which we are. And when we run this is going to print. Well, first it's going to make us do our input. We're going to hit no. let's make this a little bit more obvious. We're going to use something called an F string here. This is the new style of Python formatting. I personally like it a lot better than the old type because the old type was 1, ugly, 2, confusing, and 3, kind of left room for a lot of errors. Plus, we can actually put functions within these brackets here. So I could replace this with a function, and it'll just work right in the middle of my screen. Blah. And after this, we'll actually neaten this up. After we neaten it up, I am going to take a short break real quick to grab some water. So yeah, these are F strings. It stands for formatted strings. This is how we use variables within a formatted string. We put it within curly braces. The Python interpreter, which we talked about last stream, says, I know that I'm supposed to do something with that. And from there, if we run this again, yes, and you'll notice here is where we're accessing that dictionary. And all we're doing is telling it, I need from the dictionary my PB&J, I want the key bread. My PB&J. Butter. E. We run this. No. You'll notice that even though I put these on separate lines, it put it on the same line. In order to change lines, we're going to have to do what we're going to do to clean up our input. So what we're going to do is actually put carriage returns in. And this will make this look a ton better really quick. We're using what are called escapes. So a backslash like this tells Python, hey, the next thing I'm going to type, I want you to use what I'm typing. I don't want you to use anything special. Another example would be if I wanted to quote the word add. If I do this, you'll notice that I start getting red lines. And the reason for it is Python saying, hey, there's a double quote here, a double quote here, a double quote here, a double quote here. So Python says, oh, you wanted to define 2 strings, and this is supposed to be a variable. In order for us to say, no, that's not what I want you to do, we would either 1, escape it, or 2, we would change the type of quote. You'll notice down here, I'm using double quotes around my F string and single quotes around my variables. That's the other way that I can do that. Python does recognize that that is a different thing. So again, if we wanted this, we'll add carriage return, and we'll add carriage return here, and we don't actually need the spaces there anymore. So now if we run this, did I just debug that? Yes, I did. No. Didn't even get to see what it did. So you'll notice now where my input instead of here is here. Once I hit enter, then it's going to do some things. Our carriage returns show you that we actually separated this by lines. And again, just like we did last time, we would actually, because, I mean, who says I would like crust true? We would use a little bit of logic, or we would just define it in our dictionary that instead of this being true, I want this to be whatever I would like the computer to say for me. On that note, I am going to take a quick break. I will put on some music for you, and I will still be around for chat. But I am going to grab some water, so I will be right back.
insane.
We are back. So yeah, let's actually, since we've covered the main data types that I would want for somebody just starting off to know, let's go
I
ahead.
used to be an adventurer like you, and I took
Welcome
an
in,
arrow in the
Phoenix.
knee.
How are you? Yeah, let's actually start making this thing do some stuff that is fun. You'll notice I cleared out all of the code that we wrote. Oh, corned beef is so good. Um, we did nachos for dinner tonight because I have my house guests, and I didn't feel like cooking something hard, to be honest. But yeah, so we cleared out all of the code we just did because that's always fun. We did move it over, and I know it looks like a lot less. That's because I've unexpanded some of the. Oh, baby, yeah, it's so good. But yeah, I've unexpanded some things just so we could have this. Okay, it doesn't like because I have the font so large and the lines looking extremely large. So when I looked at that, I thought it was like 4 or 5 extra. What is the next flight to Colorado? Right? Um, but yeah, all of our old code has been moved to the old file. We are going to actually start building something out of this that actually starts to do what we're going to produce as an end product. I put in some comments, so we're going to define global variables. We haven't talked about global versus local, so we're going to do that real quick before we actually go forward. So global is exactly what it sounds like. It is something that the entire program can access. Local is something that may be defined in a function, well, should be defined in a function, or it could be defined in classes when we get to that. Functions outside of that function, where the local variable is defined, cannot access the local variables. We do have to be careful that we don't overwrite globals with our local naming conventions. But yeah, so some things that we're going to want to define globally. We would want to define red globally because we want anything in this application later on to be able to access that. We would want to do our peanut butter or jelly. Maybe. Actually, these. Welcome back, Roadside. Chat tried to break me. Didn't try. They broke me. They broke me. I forgot how to talk for a second. They also got to see the beard blush. Uh, uh, Just for you, roadside. I still can't spell that word. I don't care. I'm just going to deal with it right now. Oh. Hold on 1 second. Welcome in, Raiders. Thank you for the raid. Don't fight with ducks. I really appreciate it. How are you? How was stream? I hated to have to leave early, but
Oh my god.
and thank you, Roadside, for that. But yeah, how was stream? How did the rest of Phasmo go?
Ryan, a viewer has requested some hacker history.
All right, hacker history. I will get right to that, Boyd. I want to finish welcoming everybody in, but yeah, we'll do some hacker history. No deaths, handful of perfects. Very nice. The cheese and sunny meadows. Awesome. I'm glad stream went well. Yeah. I know. So what we are programming, we are taking the old exercise of giving the instructions to make a peanut butter and jelly sandwich. We are going to actually turn it into a program instead of just having somebody yell, "Welcome in, Chris." Instead of somebody just yell like that. Those were bad instructions. It's something I didn't like in college. I didn't like that we talked about it, but we never. Yes, roadside likes to complicate it, but that's okay because I mean, at the end of the day, when we're talking about programming, that's what's going to happen. You have to program to meet the requirements. But yeah, so we're going to make a small application that will actually take in some user inputs and eventually will pop out just breaking the code like naughty users do. It will eventually pop out a peanut butter and jelly sandwich for us. After we get done breaking it down in Python, this stream started as a language agnostic stream, so it was just the concepts of programming. So we will eventually move into no, seriously, go de-stream, eat, and thank you again for the raid. I appreciate it. We are going to move this into C#, and I will probably pull up Unreal. I think that's kind of what I've decided. And we'll actually visualize this so that we can see the ducks that Nixie requested. But yeah, that's kind of where we're at for the new people in. Here was the instructions that we created by chat. We did a debugging session, explained why this wouldn't work with a computer. Here is some of the code that we did over the last stream and a half, just talking about data types, different functions. And we actually got to see some of the stuff that we were working with actually work. But now we're going to actually step into building out a skeleton for the application that this stream will result in. This stream series. Right now we're talking about the different global variables. We talked a little bit about local. We haven't actually set up anything local because we're not at that point yet. But yeah, that's kind of where we're at. So, and we have discovered that the word sandwich and me, I just can't spell it. It doesn't even, yeah, don't know why. I still think it, there we go. There is no such thing as a dumb question. The only dumb question is the question you don't ask. And yes, I still will do hacker history, but let me answer this real quick. So Python is a scripting language. it it can be used in web. It can be used. What we are using right now is what's called an IDE, an interactive integrated developer environment. This allows us to see code syntax easily, and really is the main purpose of an IDE, is so that we can actually see, like, this is a keyword. It makes it very obvious. We could do the same thing in Notepad. As long as we have a Python interpreter, we could write this in Notepad, run it in Python as long as it has a .py name, and it would run. But to answer the base question, it is welcome in pizza. It is a scripting language that we can use to create applications. We can use to create web applications. As far as what we are programming or where we are programming, that can be web-based, application-based. This is PyCharm. Does that answer your question? And I don't want to ruin your name. Could you let me know how to pronounce your name? Or any name you prefer to be called by? Yeah. Basil? Okay, awesome. And yeah. So the tools that I'm using currently are local application. But yes, again, it can be run through a website. I personally don't like to use web interpreters just because I'm used to coding on my computer locally, where I can use tools like GitHub a little bit easier. But yeah, because that's a really good point, Casey. I'm not sure whether we were talking about what I am programming or what language, but yeah. So for some hacker history, let's talk about Loft. So so Loft was one of the first hacker groups to actually speak to welcome in, Nimble. There's no such thing as being late. You're here exactly when you're supposed to be. Loft was one of the first hacker groups to ever sit down and really discuss publicly the dangers of what we were. What did I do, Phoenix? They in the late 90s, they were the people or the group that sat down with Congress and explained to Congress what we are doing in computer technology right now is not working. They made a very bold claim, actually, in Congress during a time where hackers were not highly looked upon, to say that at any given time, they could hack the internet and take it down in 30 seconds. The sad part is they were probably pretty accurate in that timing. So thank you to Loft for bringing this to the government's attention and making hacking known, one, for not just a bad thing. Everybody knows hackers are bad, but they were the group that kind of started the movement of ethical hacking, which is it's what I do. I hack computers for clients who have asked me to show them how an attacker could get into their systems. If it wasn't for Loft, this would never have been a job. If it wasn't for Loft, the government would have never started never started taking hacking seriously, other than we just need to put these people in jail. After that discussion was a big push for hacker reform, safe harbor. Thank you for the gifted sub point. So yeah, thanks to this group, and there's another group that was very involved with that. We'll save that for another redeem. But yeah, Loft is the group that brought it to the government's attention that they needed to start taking computer security. So we'll get to Y2K. That's a fun topic. That actually relates a lot to the stream. Yeah, they brought security to the forefront, and they started the movement of understanding that cybersecurity was important. They started the movement of safe harbor for hackers who are doing security research and trying to help developers and help companies with their computer. Oh, ooh, fun topic. We'll get there, Casey. um, a lot more often than it should be. But yeah, so Loft is the reason that my job exists. Loft is or at least a good portion of the reason that my job exists, and that we are starting to take cybersecurity more seriously. Let me go back through some of these questions and comments. Y2K. So the Y2K bug, the reason I say that relates to this stream, one of the things we want to always focus on is taking into consideration future use when we're programming. The reason that Y2K was such an issue was some programmer thought that using 2-year dates, so instead of 2000 for 2000, they were using 00. The problem is when you do that, computers are stupid. They only do what we tell them to do. So when we say, if this is greater than... Thank you, Bethany. Turn that down. Is that really loud in your guys' ears, or is that just me? But yeah, so basically what happened, we had a bunch of computers that were saying, if this is less than 99, you need to do something with it. Food industry was affected bad. So our expiration date was 2001. The computer said, hey, wait a minute, 01 is less than 99. Let's just throw that away. Yes, absolute jump scare. My alerts still scare me because I'm I'm so new to this. But yeah, that was the problem with Y2K. It was bad programming. They didn't take into account what's going to happen when we go from 1999 to 2000. How often do I end up telling companies that every engagement that I do, that I am allowed to attack the end user, I can promise you that is how I get in. It is so very rare that I hack a system if I'm not doing a penetration test. That the end user wasn't my way in, whether that be through phishing, whether that be through putting a mal link in a web document. 98% of the time, it's the end user that gets me in. And once they get me in, from there, I can start attacking other parts of the system. Now, in a penetration test, we aren't doing end users normally, so that's a little bit different. Like making the perfect system, silly users. True. On a penetration test, I am not testing controls. I'm not testing the end user. I'm testing the application. I'm looking for things like SQL injection. I'm looking for things like broken authentication. In red teaming, true red teaming, I am testing the security controls, and one of those controls includes end user training. So, can I fish this user? And the answer is almost always yes. The security's weakest link will always be the human element. Um, as humans, we want to help people. As humans, we want to be friendly. And hackers will use that to their advantage. When I do a physical penetration test, one of the big things I do is walk in with a ladder and a clipboard, wearing a construction outfit, whether that be, I like to use HVAC because I did HVAC for 15 years. So if somebody does stop me, I can speak very intelligently to that part of construction. But it's very rare that somebody says, no, I don't think you're supposed to be here. They see clipboard, they see ladder, they see proper uniform, they see a tool bag. And they're just like, yep, go ahead. Oh, you need to go change your filters? Cool. Yeah, there's one in the network closet. Go ahead, Ryan, get in there. And, they don't know that in my tool bag underneath the hammer is a rubber ducky or another tool. Yeah, it's hard because at the end of a red team engagement, when I talk to a client, it's very hard to tell them, like, yeah, your end users are the reason I got in, because it's what happens. Yeah. I ooh, I don't like simulated phishing. There are a couple of good. Yeah, I've actually said that exact statement. Said, like, your end users are just you have spent $1 million on locks, but what good is it when they leave the door propped open? Um, and that's metaphorically and literally. Um, as far as simulated phishing emails, I do the same, Chinggis, and welcome in, Chinggis. Um, I, what we do at my companies is uh, we send out the generated from the training people, and then my red team, myself or my coworker, will come back, and that's when you get the dirty phishing emails. Those are the ones that are not obvious, and I would say I have a 98% click rate, and I can say that pretty confidently. It is very, very rare that I don't get somebody to click my emails. Um, I think my crowning triumph in that area was when I got our actual CISO to click the email. And that's good. That's the idea, Chinggis. That's why these why it's so important that we do this every year. Make them uh yeah, so what one of my biggest tricks is I'll actually go out and buy domains, because SPF records, DMARC, things like that can really trigger a lot of alarms for when you're spoofing from inside if it's set up properly, from when you're spoofing from inside the company. But, for example, if I know my client has a large machine learning presence, I might go out and buy their domain.ml. And I will, yeah, yeah, they checkbox security, love it. But yeah, and then I will do OSINT, find out, who's in charge of the ML program. And that email will come across as hey, everybody in the company, blah, 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 blah. We're starting a new website specifically for our ML program. we are doing a test of this XYZ. If you could go ahead and log in and provide us sample data for this that you may have the ability to do, because it looks like it's coming from a legitimate domain, because I'm not failing SPF records, because I am not failing DMARC, because I am using the proper person. That's normally a pretty successful phishing campaign. And then once they log in, I've stolen their credentials, and then I use that from wherever I need to go. I don't want to give away too many secrets because, but yeah, security training is super important. I think as a industry, we need to do better at security training, not just in the content that we're delivering, but the delivery of the content. Nobody wants to sit around and watch a video from the mid 90s about security. It's boring. They talk about the same things, and most people just fast forward. I will agree that the way that security is presented is bold. Security can be presented a much better way to be much more exciting. And that's fair. I definitely have probably one of the more exciting parts. Me and Void were actually talking about this a little while ago. I probably have one of the more exciting parts, but a lot of people don't get to see the parts of security that should be focused on, which is forensics, information, our incident response. And I won't beat that horse. It's already been beaten enough tonight. But again, if we did a better job at presenting things, security can be very exciting. GRC will never be exciting. That's just not something that's, at least not to me. It's not possible to make governance, regulation, and compliance exciting. And that's what most people get experience with security is we have to be compliant with this thing. I will beat it myself. There you go. Public utility, borderline obsessed with security, both digital and physical. To interact with our InfoSec forensic department. Yeah, exactly. And that's what I mean. Like, especially the forensic side, that's where I started. I wasn't any good at it. Well, I won't say that. I wasn't great at it. But to watch a blue team, a forensics team, a InfoSec team work and really get into the data analysis and things like that is absolutely amazing to watch. And especially when you start bringing in, you work in data center infrastructure, so you're racking servers, you're racking switches, right? Watching the interaction between a DFIR team and the operation teams, and just watching how quickly it can go from everybody joking, hanging out outside, smoking cigarettes, to like, bam, we're in work mode and we're saving the world. Okay. Awesome. For me, rack and stack is fun, but architecture would be super cool too. Forensics. So when we're talking computer forensics, a lot of it is memory analysis, reverse engineering, malware reverse engineering specifically. So taking a virus, ripping it apart, figuring out what it actually did, seeing if there's a way. Big thing right now is ransomware. Did did this person who wrote did the person who wrote the ransomware leave a breadcrumb that could help me figure out what their decryption key is, things like that. So understanding both sides. Yeah. Oh, yeah. So when I teach juniors that are interested in red team, the first thing I say is, if you are not sitting with your blue team, you are wrong, because you cannot hope to test security controls if you do not understand how they work. And I feel the same way about blue team. If we do actual purple teaming where blue team sits with red team and says, how did you do this attack? How did you get in? And red team says, this is how I got in. That gives your blue team a chance to say, okay, so how would I really detect that? What forensic tools do I need? If I'm doing process injection, and we're getting really deep into red team, if I'm doing process injection, how do I alert on that from a blue team? Exactly. And from a red team's perspective, how can I hope to hide if I don't know how a blue team thinks, if I don't know what these alerts are? I can't. And that's the difference between red team and penetration testing. One of the big differences. A red team, my job is not to hit your application. I not care if I get caught. Just tell you all the vulnerabilities that I can find. That's not my job. I need one vulnerability. I need to get in your network, and I need to figure out how far into your network I can be and how long I can maintain persistence. That is the difference between red teaming and penetration testing. I don't want to get caught. Once you catch me and kick me out, I have to work harder. So my goal is to figure out, how did you catch me? Cool. I won't do that next time. And the same thing goes with physical. Obviously, I don't want to get caught in physical. I don't like when security guards stop me. I don't like when police get called. Jail is not for Ryan. That is not somewhere I ever want to go. Oh, all good, Nimble. I just appreciate you being here. So yeah, we went on a really fun derailment, but obviously with a name like Purple Hex, it's a topic I find near and dear. I will say, yes, hashtag nerd snipe. Thursdays are going to be hacking focused. So if this is your first time here, I do like to do, nerd sniping me is always a great time. Except for when I'm supposed to send this VOD over to one of my coworkers who's learning Python. But that's okay. She'll understand. Yeah, Mike, welcome in. Oh, no. Seriously. Like I said at the beginning of the stream, I would rather get derailed on this. This program will get done. It will. We have plenty of time. There's no rush. I am here to interact with you all. I am here to help teach where I can. I am here to talk about security. I'm here to talk about hacking, programming, tech. If you guys want to talk about, yeah, it's starting to get back. Mr. Outcast TV was my roommate for a very long time. Well, maybe not necessarily a very long time, but he was my roommate, and he was around when I had to shave my beard off for a red team engagement. So he is one of the few people that have seen me without a beard in this chat, and I don't like it. But yeah, no, seriously, never apologize for nerd sniping me, for derailing me. Again, this program will get done. That's true. And again, I'm here for you guys. Like, I want to talk about the topics you want to talk about. So ask questions. And I said it earlier, and I will say it again. There is no such thing as a dumb question. If it is a question that you don't ask, the act of not asking it may have been kind of silly, but the question itself is not dumb. I don't care if you want to ask me what a power button does. That is not a dumb question. How many hours kids without a beer? I, yeah, it's not pretty. It's not pretty, Phoenix. I don't like it. I don't even like when it's shorter than it is right now. This is about as short as I like to have it. But yeah, I'm here for you. Ask questions, involve yourselves. I have a decent amount of knowledge, and one thing I will always opie. What are we in high school again? um, don't be sorry. It's all in fun. I mess with everybody. I I can take back what I give out. Um, but yeah, what was I saying? Thank you for the subscription. You didn't have to do that. Yeah, yeah. I one day I will bring up pictures. But what I was saying, if it is something that I don't know, I am not afraid to bring Google up and us learn it together. So any questions are valid. I I do around Christmas time. Actually, I hang a lot of beard ornaments. But yeah, any question is valid. And again, if I don't know it, we will learn it together. Um, I consider myself a hey. We're also good at Stack Overflow. Um, I consider myself a lifelong learner. It's one of the things that I love the most about my job is I learn something new every day. So I am not afraid to pull up Google and say, look, I don't know anything about this. Ike, what are you doing? Thank you. We're not starting this again. And we'll learn together. Exactly, Nimble. That is my biggest thing. That's why I left HVAC. That's why I finally decided to make the move into IT from HVAC. I got tired of being able to walk up to a heating and air conditioning unit, not pull out a single tool and tell you what was wrong with it. I wasn't learning anymore. I have not found that yet in IT, and I've been doing this for a long time, both professionally as a hobby and back before it was okay to do it professionally. Um, Time to lurk. Enjoy your lurk. Play Valheim. And again, thanks, dude. Love you too, man. I really do. And I appreciate you coming out. Um, I think what we're going to do, I'm going to context switch back to programming in a second. I am going to take a 5-minute break um, because I've got to get my brain back on track. Yes, Nimble. Sort of. We are okay. Before I do a break, sleepy Ryan. No, I'm actually kind of awake. My brain's just ADHD, man. um, yes, we are programming. So, real quick again, for anybody who's new, what we are doing, the first stream of this series. Oh, you're sleepy. Yeah, it's getting late for you, man. Um, what we'll probably do, we probably won't program anymore tonight. Actually, we'll just chat a little bit longer. But I am going to explain what we're doing for the new people again. We started off with the age-old an hour ahead of, but I also get up like 3 hours later. I like my message sandwich. We took the age-old thing that people do when they're trying to explain how to teach a computer how to do something or program, of making, give the instructions to make a peanut butter and jelly sandwich. Chat came up with the instructions. From there, we broke it down to this is why it doesn't work. If we actually go into notes, we started actually debugging why this wouldn't work for a computer. We moved into creating our first function, which of course the markdown display is not working. This was just kind of a little bit of pseudocode. Yes, it is. I said it last stream and I'll say it again. If you do not give implicit instructions, you will not get implicit results. You will only get the results back that you ask for. And talking to a computer is worse than talking to a 2-year-old, because at least a 2-year-old can kind of figure out what you're thinking. From there, we moved into data types. So we did dictionaries. We did strings, integers, booleans, lists. Tonight we covered inputs. We also did some if-else statements. Nothing too complicated on the if-else statements. We're going to get a lot deeper in that. We covered for loops. We covered why lists are important. And now we're kind of moving into actually starting to build the framework of our peanut butter and jelly sandwich application. We talked about global variables and local variables. We talked about functions in the last stream. And then from there, everybody found out how much I love talking about cybersecurity. I am going to put on some music for you, take a real quick break. When I come back, we'll at least start to define a single function for this, maybe. Unless you guys just want to just chat. I'll leave it up to you when we get back. But if we do a function, it'll be something simple. And from there, after that, I'm going to, we'll find a raid target, and maybe we'll find some Phasmo players. I know most of the people here play Phasmo or watch Phasmo streams. But I will be right back. Give me about 3 minutes. All right, and we are back. So that lined up properly. Thank you. It's good to be back. I'm actually going to change some things because we are going to start again making this actually look. Thank you, Nimble. So I will say those are credit to Roadside. He has been so helpful helping me set all of this up. And the transition is his. He built that. He designed the logo. So big shout out to Roadside. And I know he won't do it, so I'm going to do it.
Oh my god.
No, I will not stop it. You do it to me all the time. Ha. Um, Roadside, I did give a little teaser about the project we were talking about. Didn't explain exactly what it was, but definitely mentioned it. That's fine. Well, I hope so, because it's going to be used on your stream, designed on this one. But yeah, so what we're going to do for tonight, we're going to go ahead and make this a little bit less static, and then we're going to find a red target. Just because I just realized when Roadside said what time it was, that I do at some point have to get ready for work. Susan, welcome in. It is it's great to have you here. I see you in so many chats, and we always joke and talk. It is great to see you here. But yeah, unfortunately, I do have to work and probably have to get some sleep at some point. But I do want to at least leave this at a good place. So instead of defining a static bread, yeah, jobs expecting us to work and do things and stuff. What is wrong with them? We're going to we are going to make this dynamic. We are going to let our users actually tell us what kind of bread. So when we use the input function, we're going to call it a function. We are going to give it a prompt. What this prompt does, I know we've already seen this, but I didn't take the time to explain it, and I should have done that. And again, we're going to put in our carriage returns so that it just makes our application look better when we're running it in a terminal, or in this case, in a PowerShell prompt. I don't like calling it a terminal because it's not. And we're going to do the same thing for peanut butter. Not tonight, but yes, we are going to sanitize inputs. Although I will say the application is not going to run this in the background, so we're not too stressed about the input type. We are going to do a little bit of error handling for sure, though. We're going to do the same thing with peanut butter. So originally I was going to do brand, but I don't want to do that just because who really worries that much about brand? It's fine. Plus, if this thing's making something for somebody, it's gonna use whatever brand's nearby, right? And there goes a Sky. Say hi to chat, Sky. So for the input, we are going to say yep, and that's what we're gonna do. We're going to go crunchy or smooth. And we'll do our carriage returns again. Can I help you?
No.
No. I didn't think so. I don't have a professional job in helping people like you.
You guys see how he treats me.
You should see how she treats me.
I treat him very kindly.
Mm-hmm. I'm on the street.
I know.
Can I help you?
I was just reading chat.
Okay. Stop standing over my shoulder. Just go in. You have a whole computer. If you don't, go use one of my laptops.
You don't like me lingering?
No, you know I don't like people standing over me.
Lingering?
This is my ex-wife. As you can see, there's a reason for it.
Hold on.
Do not.
I'm not.
Come on, I'm trying to wrap up stream.
Oh.
What's up? Mike, you know who that is. Being herself, as usual.
As usual.
So other parts of the sandwich. We're going to handle something that Roadside mentioned. We're going to give this jelly and preserves. She doesn't live here anymore, though. That's the thing.
I just come in and roach on his area and space whenever I can. Even though I'm the ex-wife, I still have to be an annoyance.
Have a nice night.
You trying to get me to leave?
Yes.
Are you saying I cannot talk to chat?
I'm not saying you can't talk to chat. I'm saying you can go talk to chat on your computer.
Rude. I'm no longer doing his beard anymore, so prepare for it to be ugly and terrible.
Yes.
Good grief.
No, she knows better than that. So, all right. Roadside, does that cover your jelly jam preserves question? Now that we're going to have to do complicated if else. Yes. All right. Give me a second. Yes. No, Mike, that is Sky. Now she's in chat. All right, Roadside, what else do we need to figure out? We are going to have a knife. We are going to have concept of a jar. And I think that's enough for globables. Bulls, did I say? I think I said a word that doesn't even exist. So, plate. Plate's a good idea. That is true. I did used to talk to your chat all the time, but only when you asked me to. So with Python, we can do an interesting thing because we're using inputs now. We will show how this works. Peanut butter. That's a long word. I'm not typing that. And plate. So now, if we run main, you'll notice it asks the questions. Yeah, true roadside. The reason that it's asking these questions is because we've assigned it to the input. Well, exactly, pizza. I feel you. I'm actually getting to the point that I just want a peanut butter and jelly sandwich with all the talk of peanut butter and jelly sandwiches. But yeah, so because we assign these to inputs instead of just a static variable, it now, when we call that variable, it's going to do something. And we could go through this. So we could do, we want white bread. Who wants crunchy? Who wants smooth? Smooth? All right, I see 2 smooths. Okay. And do we want jelly, jam, or preserves? Sorry, smooths have it. Oh, roadside. Okay, so lesson learned. Next time we do a poll for this, I'm just going to type jelly because I've already typed it. And are we going to use a plate? Or do we want this application to just hand us a sandwich? And no. Okay, so we went through all of our inputs and they did absolutely nothing, which is not true. In the background, plate became no. Jelly, jam, preserves became jelly. Bread became white bread. Peanut butter became smooth. Because we didn't tell the program why we needed to assign those variables, it's only going to do what we told it, right? Computers are dumb. So it did what we told it to. We told it that we wanted it to assign some variables. It did. What we would really want to do here is something more like this. A break. But now if we run it, it's still going to ask us the questions, right? So what kind of bread do we want? We want white bread. We want smooth. Do we want jelly? We're going to go jam this time. Hold on, roadside. We're going to get to that. I promise. And we'll be using the plate today. So now we actually told it to do something with those variables. As roadside mentioned, we're not using dry programming right now. In this particular section, we are. Here we are not. That will be the next go around. We will actually do some dry programming. We are going to create our first actual function. we are definitely going to use F strings because anybody who is not using F strings needs to start using them. I have to share this VOD with a coworker, so I'm going to be nice because the whole point of me sharing this was I knew I was talking about F strings tonight. So we're going to do a function. And you'll notice this time we are not going to pass parameters. Oh, yes, I cannot spell this word. It's not in my
Oh my god.
Hey, Rob, how you doing? But so we're not getting sandwich yet. Right now, we're going to get the information from the user. Get sandwich will actually start involving the application starting to move around and get the sandwich. Yeah, that's what I did. Sandwich info. And we can literally just do this. Return bread. We don't have to do that. Words are hard, so are math. Yes. Hey, Rain, how are you doing? Welcome in. Somewhat big brain stuff. We're actually we're making a peanut butter and jelly sandwich with a computer.
Oh my god.
Go back to our dry programming that we want to stick to. We can now just do print get sandwich info. And if we run this, it's going to ask the same things. White, red, smooth. Pickle cotton candy. I mean, we definitely we can do the. That's the great thing about programming. We can make this do whatever you want. We can add a side in. We did jelly. We did jam. We're gonna do preserves this time. And now we got a little bit different of an output this time. It can. We would probably do a different program for that, Rain, but we can make it do some Pinky in the Brain taking over the world stuff. But yeah, we got a little bit different output. On next stream, we will actually talk about why that happened, and we will learn how to actually access that. For now, this is a pretty good stopping point. What I am going to do is show you the GitHub process that we're going to use. So that this stays in the repo for us so that we can access it later. So the first thing we do is git add. So that is definitely something we can touch on, Phoenix. I can show you how we can use an API to help us pick food. We gave it the official name of grocery picker thingy or grocery decider thingy tonight. That for my old application, but so what we've done here is I've told Git, which is our versioning software, to add all files in this main directory. I'm committing it, which means I'm saying, yes, this is something I want to go up to my remote repository. You'll notice it says there were 2 files changed, 59 insertions, 19 deletions. Yeah, that was the other one. Sky, I was telling him about the one that we used to actually build out our entire grocery cart with the random items from random recipes. Yeah, so many fun things we can do with this. So we did the add. Here we can check everything that was changed. Well, we can check how much stuff was changed. If we wanted to, we could actually dive into the commit and it'll actually tell us everything that was changed. From here, we just do git push -u origin, and this is 3:15:23 string. Hydrate. Good on you. Thank you for the hydrate. And what this is going to do is this is going to take all the coding that I just did here, right? They're trying to drown me. And it's actually going to push it to the GitHub repo, which I will show again before we that is my that we'll show the repo, and then from there we'll rate on up. But yeah, so once I do this, it's going to tell me a bunch of things. It's going to let me know that we created a new branch on the remote repository. It's going to give us an option to actually merge this to our main. So what that looks like here, you can see, even though this is a website, this change has been moved. So the first thing we're going to do is switch to this branch. Branches 315, and we will actually create a release. So we can click on this. This is all the stuff from last time. We go here. We're going to drop the new release, and we're going to call this v0.1.2. We're going to create a new tag, and we're going to name this release 3:15:23 stream. We're not going to target main. We're going to target this branch. We're going to generate release notes. It's going to give us a change log. And then we set this as the latest release. We publish. And this allows you to actually download as a zip file all the code that we just did. And then finally, the next step, you'll notice it's complaining that I don't have this protected. That's one of those extra things that I pay for. That's funny, Susan. And we're going to create a pull request. We always want to leave a detailed comment. We create the pull request. So what this is going to do, it's going to check and make sure that I haven't created any conflicts. And we're going to move this from the 3:15:23 branch over to the main because that is our current release. And from there, our main branch added some crap. Yeah, I've got a couple like that. Actually, you might have copied that directly from one of my commit messages. But yeah, so now our main is updated. We have 3 total releases. And that is that for this part. So Yeah, yeah. Uh, I've got, I've got. I think my favorite commit I've ever made was committing because I have no idea what's broken on this shit, and that was literally the commit message, and it was in a work repo. Uh, so commit messages are fun. But yeah, from here, so now on this local version, we have 3 different branches. Between stream cleanup, I do make a uh, I I do release anytime I do anything between streams so that you can see what I did. Nimble, that is what the point of this stream is. Feel free to ask questions. There is one other thing that I'd like to do, and we're not going to do it next stream, but I do want to go through how do we install Python on a Windows computer. You don't have to install it on Linux; it comes pre-installed. You don't have to install it on a Mac; it comes pre-installed. But for Windows, you do have to do some actual steps. For next stream, we're going to build out some more stuff. We're going to talk about another operator type. We're going to talk about something called logical operators. Yeah, I agree. Linux is greater than Windows. I think you can erase for programming. There's one thing Windows does better. I will give it credit on that. But what's broken in this ship? Everything's broken on this ship. In all regards except gaming. Exactly. Not to hate on Windows too much, but I I don't consider myself big brain, but I do have a lot of experience. I'm old, so I have a lot of experience, and I do a lot of studying. So um, any computer programming questions, any computing program or computing questions in general, you're more than welcome to ask.
Brought this to show.
Wait, I'm wrapping up stream. With X number of years of experience. Yeah, something like that. But yeah, from here, we are going to go ahead and raid out. I think Roadside has picked a target for us. Next week, we will go over logical operators. We will build out some. I feel old, Nimble. We will pick out.
You are old.
We will pick out some more stuff to work on with the functions, and maybe next week. I don't know, Bimini. I don't know. I don't ask that question. Um, but yeah, we by next week, let's set a goal of having this actually pop out a not pop out the sandwich, but we will have it actually start to build the sandwich for us. But again, thank you everybody for staying here and chilling and talking with me. Okay, so then I'm not old Phoenix. I've got a little bit. I came a little bit after. Uh, but yeah, thank you all so much for hanging out. Thank you for everything. Thank you for all the support, all the gifted subs, the bits, the follows, the redeems. And we will see you. I'm actually going to stream tomorrow. Tomorrow will not be programming them. Tomorrow will be actual hacking. So we are going to get on Try Hack Me and do a couple of CTFs. Uh, And no, please, please don't ever feel dumb for asking a question. Again, there's no such thing as a dumb question. The only question that is dumb was the one that didn't get asked. But other than that, everybody have a wonderful night. And if you want to stop by tomorrow, we'll do some hacking. It is still beginner focused, so I do break it down to a level that I hope that you will feel comfortable asking the questions. Other than that, everybody have a wonderful night. I am going to go ahead and let Roadside start the raid. Thank you again for all the support, and thank you again for being here.
Dog. Dude.